Okay, at this time, I'd call to order the meeting Monday, March the 25th, 2024 to order. I ask all who have not signed in, please do so. Please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please conduct any private conversations in the hallway or outside. This meeting room is equipped with the inductive loop hearing assistance system. Be able to hear conversations through the microphones on hearing aids with a T switch. Emergency exits can be found to your right and to your left. And this meeting is also live streamed via YouTube with text commenting available. At this time, if you please join the town board in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a couple brief announcements before we get into the public hearing. And first, I want to start by declaring necessarily absent this evening our town clerk, Karen Bodine. I do wish to welcome and thank Deputy Town Clerk Kim Reese for joining us here this evening. And our town attorney this evening is Mr. Rick Tucker. Not finalized yet this evening is the schedule of town facilities that might have modified hours of operation on April the 8th during the solar eclipse. When the schedule is completed, it will be added to the town's website and placed on on multiple social media outlets. And as we do at the conclusion of every month, we try to identify the upcoming months and the number of employees who are having birthdays. So we have 6 employees celebrating birthdays in the month of April, starting with Town Justice Reed Holter on April the 3rd, Kelly Kabinski on the 16th, Mike Stockman on the 17th, Jason Meyer on the 19th, Tom Sterone on the 21st, and Mr. Neil Chapman on the 27th. So happy birthday to all of those very deserving employees. Public hearing. At this time, we'll ask the town clerk to please read the public hearing notice.
Please take notice that the Victortown Board is proposing a local law imposing a 6-month moratorium on the review, approval, permitting, and/or construction of large-scale solar energy systems in the town of Victor. And said public hearing shall be held on March 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Victor Town Hall, 85 East Main Street. This notice was published in the Daily Messenger newspaper on March 15th, 2024. It was posted on the signboard at the Town Hall and the Village Hall and on the website for the Town of Victor.
Thank you, Kim. Just a couple ground rules. If you come to the podium, please state your name for the record. Not posted on the agenda, but what we try to follow is 3 minutes of speaking for an opportunity to voice your concerns one way or the other. And oh, yes, and very important that it's not really a Q&A session. It's an opportunity to build a public record based on public comments. So, hence the public hearing. So at this time, opportunity for those care to speak for or against this moratorium. Feel free to come to the podium, ladies or gentlemen.
Hello, my name is Victor Chach. I represent Norbut Solar Farms. Good evening to the board. I'd like to start off by thanking the board for the opportunity to participate tonight in the public hearing and to provide some comment on the proposed moratorium. As I mentioned, I work for Norbut Solar Farms. We're a local developer based out of Rochester. As the board is likely aware, we've applied to the town for the approval of 2 solar facilities, a 4.5 megawatt project located on Main Street Fishers, as well as a 10 megawatt project located on County Road 41. Both of these projects would be considered community solar projects, which is a distinction set forth by the New York State Public Service Commission, or PSC, for some smaller scale utility projects that are able to hook into the distribution side of the utility grid and provide discounted power to the residents of the town that the project is located in. I do think it's also worth mentioning that both of these projects would generate an increase, a noticeable increase in the real property tax revenue for the town. Our understanding is that the board is entertaining the possibility of a moratorium in order to ensure that the current regulations are consistent with any changes that have taken place within the solar industry. since the adoption of the current regulations in 2018. I do want to point out that the authorizing framework for community solar projects, which I had mentioned previously, was issued by the PSC in July of 2015, which means that the state's community solar program had been established for about 2.5 years when the town adopted their current regulations. We're not aware of any significant changes to the solar industry that would warrant a full review and rewrite of the town's current regulations in the time since then. We did also take the opportunity to review some of the meeting minutes from the town board's 2018 review process for their current regulations. And it would appear that the town board at the time thoughtfully adopted the current regulations after around 8 months of review and consideration, and that a substantial amount of time and town resources went into drafting, modifying, reviewing, consulting on, holding public hearings on, and then eventually adopting the current regulations. Norbut Solar first met with the town in November of 2023 to introduce our projects and to request some of the town's input on the design of the facilities. In our experience, we do sometimes see that towns go into moratorium if they don't have any zoning or any solar regulations ahead of receiving an application. However, I will be honest with the board in that we were somewhat surprised to hear that the town of Victor was going into, considering going into moratorium. When the town already had comprehensive regulations in place, and when we had been in the process of corresponding with the town on these projects for a period of a few months. As I had mentioned previously, the projects, our projects were designed to adhere to the current solar regulations, which include restrictions related to setbacks, lot coverage, vegetative screening, fencing, panel height, facility decommissioning, stormwater controls, farmland protection, among some other items. As I'm sure the board is aware, the current review process is not nearly as simple as simply pulling a building permit. Consists of a multi-month, multi-stage review, which includes a comprehensive seeker review, county planning board review, review by the conservation board, review by the town engineer, as well as any required public hearings, such as this one, allowing the public ample opportunity to have any concerns heard and considered by the board. I would say in the few interactions we've had with the planning board, they appear to be well-informed and well-qualified to undertake review of these projects, and I know that in the past they've undertaken the review of a lot of solar developments that are much larger and have much more significant environmental impacts than ours.
And the boards, we have circulated your letter to the board members.
Thank you.
Okay. Your,
Oh, can
your
I
3 minutes of fame.
All right. Thank you.
Any other members of the public care to speak for or against this proposed moratorium?
Tracy Cay, 8016 Main Street, Fishers. We are part of, our property butts right next to the smaller one. I spoke at the last hearing, so I'm here to speak again from what we've learned since that hearing and about our displeasure. So first thing, we are up on a hill. We will be right next to this. It will be about 30 feet off the corner of my house. Between 10 and 2, this is going, these panels that are going to be 12 feet up in the air, they're going to clear cut the field and the forest up around my home, are going to beam into my house. I am not looking for to have sunglasses on in my house. We are also in yellow color, which means there is a percentage of eye damage and skin cancer. I will not be able to be out on my deck, in my pool, or in my garden. The next thing that's going to occur is when they come in and clear cut this field, there are drainage issues. So anyone below us, and there are 5 or 6 homes, including Tom Galisano, that are going to have drainage issues. Now, Mr. Galisano was in Monroe County. His lot backs right up to next to where this is going to occur. There is another development behind that in Mendon off of Route 64 that will be receiving glare as well. There is no driveway up into this area. If there were a fire, there's a huge field that backs up to the thruway. So there would have to be some sort of access populated. There's also huge wildlife, and it's been almost a forever wild of about 88 acres. So of course, we're not very upset about this. The drainage is already noted in they know there's a drainage problem. And that's in your
documentation that we've looked at. So that drainage has got to go somewhere. Across the street is Arundecoit Creek. Aluminum, high percentage, comes off these things. If they break, we have hail, if they tip over, and you kind of picture, well, how could that be? Well, it does occur. We have people on well on that road. Now, last time I looked, we don't drain poison water into a creek. So there's a lot of things. We've been there for 22 years. Our neighbors below us have been there for 40. The neighbor next to them, I can't remember exactly how long. The neighbor on the other side of us has been there for over 22 or 20 years. So you have people long-standing that have been there a long time that aren't very excited about this. And they're also, the access road they're looking to, coming down our road, Main Street Fishers, the bridges do not hold the strength of the construction equipment. So those bridges that just got rebuilt, I think it was about a year ago, they're going to have to be upgraded as well to handle that. So there's drainage, there's pollution, there's the loss of wildlife, clear cutting of field. There's a farmer behind us that has a couple of acres as well, who also had this happen to him on the north side of 490. That company came in, did this a couple years ago under eminent domain, got sold, these things fell apart, and now it looks like a junkyard. And he spent about $2 million removing them. I'm not opposed to green energy, but changing the zoning and losing about 7 to 10%, which I believe it to be higher on my home's value, and having 32 or 34 acres of solar panels beaming into the back of my home and not being able to go out in my backyard I'm really upset about.
Thank you.
Yep.
And again, any other members of the public care to speak for or against this proposed moratorium?
Randy Shay, 50 West Main Street, Victor, New York. Back in college, I was the co-coordinator of Earth Day. I am an environmentalist. I'm a conservationist. I do believe that solar power has a place in what we are moving into in the next couple decades. Based on what I just heard, and based on the fact that this is being considered, a moratorium doesn't mean that you can't approve it sometime in the future, but I do think a pause makes sense so that we can get more information about it. There might be other properties, even in Victor, New York, that would be more suitable. And so I'm in favor of passing the resolution for the moratorium for 6 months.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Nicole Johnston. I'm at 1534 Beaumont Way. I am in the new community that was just developed there. We closed on our house only 6 months ago. And as a new resident who came back after 20 years from not living in this area and moving back, bringing my family here, this is obviously not what we anticipated. And I think I am in support of the moratorium to figure this out, really look through it, because in my opinion, you're kind of setting a precedent for everybody else in the town of Victor to have a solar farm 30 feet from her yard, 250 feet from my neighbors, 300 from others, and like 500 from mine. So I think if we want to set a precedent saying that this is okay and we're going to allow this now, think about how this is going to trickle down to other residents within this community. I think we need to protect these people, and I do agree. I love, sustainable energy, but it has a place, and I don't think it's in our backyards.
Thank you.
Hi, Katia Hunter, 1535 Beaumont Way in Victor. And I echo the sentiments of everybody except for the solar farm company. Hey, great idea, but not in my backyard. I'm sorry. It's just not a good idea. I think you do need the moratorium. Think about it. Think about where this might be best suited. from a city planning standpoint. I don't think it belongs in a residential neighborhood. I think green energy is great, we need it, but I want us to plan for it. We have the opportunity to do that, and I think there are other places that are best suited for this application. So, sorry, but no, not my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's okay. Hopefully I won't cough, sorry. Good evening, my name is Melissa Woods. I'm a concerned homeowner in the Bluemont Rise subdivision and also a certified licensed appraiser. Thank you for allowing me to take this time to discuss the negative impact the proposed solar farm will have on the marketability of our properties in the neighborhood, as well as the effects on our property values. Research has found that when determining a location for a solar farm in regards to how it affects homeowners in the area, the property values have less effect on marketability in areas that already pose other external obsolescences, such as proximity to major highways, schools, places of worship, busy roads, commercial or industrial areas. Generally, new solar facilities are guided to an industrial area or other locations where the impact to neighborhoods, agriculture, and environment is minimal. As an appraiser, I'm trying to find comparables that have recently sold in the area that is impacted by the solar farm. My research concluded that many of the solar farms in the area are in a predominantly agricultural area or in an industrial district. Solar Liberty took on the former landfill on Emerson Street that is zoned industrial and across the street from Kodak Park. Since there was already an external obsolescence for the properties in the area because of Kodak, this placement made sense. Nexamp set up a 15,000 panel solar farm on roughly 90 acres that's surrounded by a place of worship, a mine, a large strip of land owned by Niagara Mohawk, a fire department. Some residences are there, but it's predominantly agricultural. Norbut Farm has a solar farm in Parma on West Ridge Road that is surrounded by agricultural land and properties with high acreage, and also a place of worship located across the street. Taking it one step further, I was able to find a sale at 2689 South Union Street that is adjacent to the Nexamp facility. This property backs to the solar farm and sold in September 2023 for $195,000. So I found 4 other comparables that are comparable to that property. They were all affected, their values were affected from a comp that sold across the street, across West Ridge Road from the solar farm, 8%, all the way up to 19%. So this is going to have a substantial impact on our property values, substantial. Hold on, I have more. For the purpose of this data analysis, I used comparables that sold from July to October 2023 within 5-mile radius of the solar plant, similar in age, design, quality of construction, and also busy road location. In addition, I would also like to point out that generally the cul-de-sac and homes surrounding the cul-de-sac are the first to sell in a new construction development. These lots are almost always sold at a premium. Lots 12 through 19 of Beaumont Way in our subdivision had a total of $225,000 in premium lot charges. The homeowners paid these premiums and chose to build in the neighborhood since it was one of the only new construction developments that had larger parcels with a pastoral view. I can personally say that the only reason why I chose to build in this development was because of the view and the privacy of the conservation area. By allowing the solar panel to move forward, it will have a negative impact on us financially. Our view will be disturbed by the panels and the glare imposed by the panels, thus causing an external obsolescence. In conclusion, I would strongly ask the town to move forward with the moratorium so not only all potential impacts can be identified, but also so we can find an alternative location for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure your letter gets circulated to the other board members.
I just printed extra copies for you.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers this evening?
Evening Supervisor Mayor and members of the town board. My name is Rob Brener. I live with my wife Kate at 1532 Beaumont Way in Victor. I find myself in an awkward position tonight because my practice is I'm a land use and zoning attorney. I've been to hundreds of municipalities around the state working on utility projects. I've represented Verizon Wireless. I've represented Verizon Wireless in this town. I've represented solar companies, not in this town, of course. I've represented clients on some of the largest projects in Ontario County. I just did the zoning for the Sands Family YMCA. I did the zoning for the lake house on Canandaigua. So I understand the process. I also spent about 6 years as a planning and zoning attorney for a very large municipality in the town of Irondequoit in Monroe County. So with all that being said, I understand the focus of tonight's discussion. The focus is on the moratorium. This isn't about taking an extra 6 months to review the Norbut solar application, right? This is about taking 6 months to look at the local law you adopted in 2018, which was modeled after the NYSERDA draft solar law. I disagree with Norbut's representatives. A lot's changed in 6 years. These projects have gotten closer and closer to home. When I was working on them in 2018, they were largely in industrial districts. They were on large tracts of farmland, right? Now we have one proposed on 88 acres, which is farmland, right? And it's in a farmland protection area. And if you look at your farmland protection plan that the town board worked on in 2015, you look at your comprehensive plan that you all worked on in 2015, months and months and months and months, right? There's diagrams, there's exhibits. It talks about properties in this part of south of 41 and says they need to be preserved for farmland and agricultural purposes, right? So it's not about this project. It's not about what's happening on this particular property. It's about taking a hard look at this solar law. You folks need to adopt overlay districts. You need to figure out where this is right in the town of Victor. You shouldn't leave it to the planning board. You've got really great decommissioning regulations in your solar ordinance. There's pages and pages of decommissioning regulations. There's one provision on where these things can go, and it says they can go anywhere in town subject to the issuance of a special use permit. Victor's behind the times on that, right? You need to have tiers. You need to have overlay districts. You need to understand where you want these. You need to include provisions that protect non-participating residences, right? That means if somebody's not renting land or selling land to the solar developer, how do you protect their asset? What's an appropriate setback from a backyard or from a house? This isn't as simple as saying, hey, planning board, we got an application and apply the special use permit standards and figure out if this should go or not. This needs to be a policy change by elected officials in the town. You need to catch up. You need to do what the other towns are doing. And you need to use this time for a moratorium to consider a local law change. And that needs to be a text amendment to the solar law. And you need to do a map amendment. You need to create overlay districts. There are properties in Victor. There's one for sale now. It's next to a gravel and mining operation on County Road 41 that's operating pursuant to a DEC permit. It's 150 acres. That's a spot where this should be. It shouldn't be on prime farmland protection land. It says in the solar regs, it talks about, you know, where these should be and where they shouldn't be. It says prime farmland. They should avoid prime farmland, right? And you look at the definition of prime farmland, and it's this parcel. Right, so on the merits, and we'll talk about it if and when it gets there, on the merits, this application fails. You know, there was some discussion, and it's not for tonight, that this is a code compliant project. It's not. It's not. It doesn't comport with the development standards about prime farmland. It doesn't comport with the height restrictions. There's a 12-foot height restriction. They're asking for 16 and a half feet. That's not a compliant project. I'd love to be at the ZBA and understand how they comply with the area variance test and the 5-factor balancing test about saying they need 16 and a half feet instead of 12 at the detriment of the neighborhood. It doesn't work. Just doesn't work. So you're doing the right thing. I commend the town for what you're doing. You need to adopt a moratorium. You need to take the 6 months. You need to make local law changes. We shouldn't be discussing this application for 6 months, getting supplemental submissions from the developer. You should be talking about where in Victor you want these. And if you decide you want it here and you want it on Main Street Fishers, you need to adopt standards that protect people's properties and, you know, non-participating residences. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. There are other additional speakers regarding the moratorium. Hearing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Could we keep the public hearing open for the next meeting as well, or?
For what now?
Can we keep the public hearing open for the next meeting as well, so if there's any other residents?
Keep the public hearing open for written comments to the clerk's office
Yeah,
up until the next
Because-
meeting.
Yeah, because we sent it to the county, so their meeting is, I think, April 9th or something, and then we wouldn't be able to vote on a moratorium until April, I think our April 22nd
Second meeting in April,
The second
correct.
meeting in April, yeah.
Geez, yes, 22nd, something like that.
Yep.
Any objection to keeping it open for both written comment and public comment at the next meeting on April the 8th? Then it's from keeping it open. There's a submission to the county. There's dates here.
So for the submission to the county, though, does the public hearing need to be closed?
Well, what I was just mentioning to the supervisor is that if the application is due March 28th, then the actions that you're looking at would be already in motion, and the public comment would be chasing. I don't think that public comment impacts the application.
So keeping it open, there's none an impact.
Correct.
Okay. So hearing no objection, we'll keep it open for April the 8th meeting and certainly take public written comment through the town clerk's office. Okay, moving back to the agenda. Approval of minutes. This is the March 11th town board meeting. Town board members, your consideration for approval of these meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have to abstain. I wasn't here on the 11th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And again, Councilman Conan abstain. At this time, we'll ask the town clerk to introduce payment of manifest number 6 and 6A.
Manifest number 6 in the amount of $27,725.75 and manifest number 6A in the amount of $226,964.76 have been reviewed by the Victortown Board with the following accounts charged: General Town-wide, General Outside Village, Parkland Trust Fund, Highway Town-wide, and the lighting districts of Fishers, Brookwood Meadows, High Point, Cobblestone, Quail Ridge, Rolling Meadows, Stoneleigh, and Legacy at the Fairways.
Thank you, Kim. As you can see on the screen, we have one item. We'd like to identify items that are in the range of or exceed $5,000. Manifest number 6, we have payment to Colorcino Industries for the expenses incurred for the dog park. Under abstract 6A, Bluestone Creek, the April rent for Parks and Recreation. Item 2, payment to Cargill. This is salt purchase for the town roads. Number 3, payment to Grassland Equipment, lawnmowers for the Parks Department. Payment to NVP for health insurance for the month of March. Payment to the New York State Comptroller's Office. These are court fees collected by our town courts. And payment to RG&E for the February townwide gas and electric chargers. Total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $154,036.38. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $72,928.38. So board members, any objection to taking manifest 6 and 6A as a block?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, so at this time entertain a motion to approve the payments thereof.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no request for privilege of the floor this evening. On a referendum update on the back of the room and a table coming in, should have been copies of a resolution. So again, previously I'd mentioned that this would be the meeting that we would set a date, time, and location for the referendum vote. And instead, we're moving in a different direction. So that resolution identifying the same 11.9 acres over off of Brace Road. On December the 18th, 2023, the town board adopted resolution number 278, and as well as issued a negative declaration as part of the seeker process. and authorizing the supervisor or deputy supervisor of the town to execute an agreement to purchase the property for $1 million on terms and conditions detailed in the proposed purchase and sale agreement between the seller and the town. The town now desires to rescind the adoption of resolution number 278 and any authorization set forth therein regarding the acquisition of the property by the town. By rescinding the resolution, the supervisor and deputy supervisor are no longer authorized to execute an agreement to purchase the property from the seller. As a result of the rescission of resolution number 278, the town is not required to proceed with scheduling a vote on the acquisition of the property as requested by permissive referendum. So that in a nutshell. Certainly the residents back in January, I think it was, my apologies, in early February, certainly did their due diligence, knocked on doors, got a significant amount of signatures, calling for a referendum vote. Certainly want to applaud those residents for their efforts during that time. The weather wasn't ideal, wasn't like today by any means. And some wonderful points made by these residents as well. The evening that the petition was submitted and provided to the town board, a number of appraisals, how much is the road going to cost, how much is the highway facility. So what started as an opportunity to acquire some land certainly took on significant amount of challenges, and to overcome that in a short period of time was not in anyone's best interest in this town. So the need for a highway facility continues. Certainly we will go back to the drawing plans and work certainly with the committee, with members of the highway, as well as our attorney and engineering firm, and certainly moving forward, if there is a land opportunity to purchase, certainly be more communicative to the residents of the town, as well as what our plans are. And certainly it's been a good exercise. Unfortunately, it took on we found the board members found a few little, I'll use the term, landmines along the way. And not necessarily just that some of the things we wanted, we just couldn't have enough time. So again, back to my original comments. Kudos to those residents, and I know it took the time and inclement weather, knocked on doors, certainly very passionate about the desire to bring this to the residents for a vote. And so at this time, I will offer this motion for the town board's consideration here this evening to rescind the 12/18/2023 resolution.
You want to vote on that now?
Yes, sir.
You want comments from us before we vote, or not?
Certainly.
Well, I certainly support this resolution, and I think, but I want to be clear in that I don't know if we'll ever get it for $1 million. You know, I mean, the cat's out of the bag now, but I felt that putting the total package together, we didn't have enough information to make a good decision to put it out to the voters. And I think, to be honest with you, we need a highway facility. We need to, fix it, the 70, 80-year-old structure that we have over there. And I think that, you try to negotiate, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but you try to negotiate before the cat's out of the bag, because when someone knows that the town is interested in property, then tick, 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 obviously the price tag goes up. Makes me nervous that Mr. Tire across the road, the 10 acres over there, is being offered up for $2.1 billion. That's, of course, that's an asking price, and not necessarily what they're going to get for it. But, 10, 11 acres on 96 is prime real estate, no matter how you slice it. But I think understanding the total cost of what the road is going to take, and traffic lights, and some of the site work, I think it's important to take pause, because I didn't want to move forward and not have all of our information in our total package. And I think probably more than likely, it may cost us more for the property down the road if we continue to pursue that piece of property. It might not, but I think it'll probably be included in the total referendum when we come to the voters. I mean, this isn't something that we've been working on for 6 weeks. This is something that this board and previous boards have been working on for 10 years. The upside of that is that we've been, just like you take your money and you put it aside for when you need that new car, you got to put a new roof on. We've been putting money aside for capital improvements, and we're in very good shape that, maybe by 26, 27, 28, when we put a shovel in the ground for this project, 50% of it's going to be covered by money that we have in reserves. And I think that's a sign that the board has been working towards that. And I think that's something that the general public doesn't know, and I think that that's important to have that be part of the public record. So I'm in support of rescinding that resolution from December 18th.
Thank you, Councilman Conan. Any other?
Yeah, I would just like to offer up thoughts and opinions on my part in general. I do think that the piece of property is worth the money. I don't think it will go. I don't think there is another piece of property like it, whether it be this one or any other one, that the town of Victor will get for that or less. I've been on 3 committees, and prior to me being on the board, searching for property in the town of Victor of that size for both courts, for parks, for town, and it's just not going to happen. So my opinion is that the dollar amount, even though $1 million scares the crap out of a bunch of people, I don't think it's an excessive amount of money. That being said, everybody around us tends to attempt to have the property in their possession before they ever attempt to build a building to take forward. The town of Farmington owned their property for a long time prior to that. The town of Webster is building a building right now, and LaFroise is building it, and they've owned that piece of property for an extended period of time. They took these efforts in advance to try and have it in the bank, to have it paid for, to have a plan in place. My opinion of it was, in conjunction with the property that we already owned on Brace Road, that it was a perfect fit. Even if we didn't build a town barn facility on there, with what we already have, makes that whole piece of property way greater in value when you take the Stagnito farm that we purchased and the park that Paparone donated to the town, and that together was a joint opportunity that I think was phenomenal. But I don't take anything away from the fact that the public said that we need this information to move forward, and so I'm also in favor of rescinding it, but I also wanted to be record that I think that property, or any property that we get, I wouldn't be afraid to own the property for a period of time, because if you started today and already owned the property, you won't see a building completed for 10 years. We're in desperate need of a new town facility. We're way behind the times from everybody else, and it's going to be built probably long after I'm around to have an opinion on this board. But looking forward to the future and what the town needs down the road and everything that we have going forward and the growth within the town, I'm looking at this, and my opinion was based on the fact of what this would be advantageous for the town in the future, long after I'm off this board. And I've been here my whole 68 years, and it's a project that's needed, and it's probably the properties that I've looked at in the committees that I've been on for 15 years. The project now is at least doubled, and if we tend to take this out an extended period of time to get it all done, it's going to go up again. We all know what things have done with building and infrastructure and all of that. So I am in favor of complying with the public wishing to get more knowledge, and I'll strongly support that in every way. But I do want to express my concern that we put it on a back burner. I don't want to do that in any way. So, but I am in favor of going along with getting more information on this and presenting it in a different way and doing what's right for the town.
Thank you.
Supervisor, I would echo pretty much everything that's been said. I think the only thing maybe that I feel strongly about is a referendum vote at this point in time, from my assessment personally, is that it's going to get voted no. So I guess we ask ourselves 2 questions. Do we want to continue down the road of voting no and then have to regroup, or do we want to look at why we are prospectively going to vote no for this and then stop in our tracks, regroup and identify the reasons why the residents went forth with getting the petition signatures that were needed. And I think, certainly we looked at it from the land acquisition side in the non-public venue so that we could try to identify a best available price. The cat's not out of the bag. But then in looking at that, the $1 million or whatever the land purchase price ends up being in the future, that's a very small percentage of the overall project. So I think coming back, regrouping, and identifying a project that is a 50-year sustainable project for this department, but also being able to propose to the community what the overall package looks like, I think is going to be a far better way to go about it. I think retrospectively, I understand why we did it, and there's some strategic reasons why we would do that. Obviously, the community has spoken and would like to see a bigger picture of this project and maybe vote on a whole of it versus step one of 10 or 20 steps to the project. So I can agree with that. I also know more than anything that we do need a town facility. And having been through the facility over there a few times and identifying some of the risks that we have by operating out of a 1950s bowstring building, coming from my background in the fire service, there are some substantial risks that we take by a prolonged use of that building really after its operating service life has really come to an end. And I think it's pretty clear that the facility we're operating at currently is at the very best substandard to the needs of the next 50 years of this town.
Thank you.
I thought a while about what I was going to say here tonight about this topic, so prepared a little something. I think I'm kind of in a unique position because I wasn't on the board prior to when this resolution was voted on to purchase this land, or when there were discussions about the plan to buy and build a new highway garage. Prior to January 1st, I was on the opposite side of this table in the audience for most of the town board meetings last year, including the one to purchase the land. It was brought up as a resolution and voted on, as we do all of our resolutions. As a member of the public, I trusted that decision. I voted for all of the people up here to make decisions in the best interest of town residents, and I still feel that all of our town board members do everything we believe is in the best interest of Victor. I understand members of the public that felt there was not enough information about the land purchase or the overall project to justify the land purchase. I can assure everyone that for the past few months, the town has worked tirelessly to prepare a seamless flow of information that we would have presented to the public about the land purchase, the future project, and the costs associated. I'd like to personally thank everyone that assisted in this effort. Please know that your dedication to the town has not gone unnoticed. I truly believe that everything we had worked on would have shown the public exactly why we need a new highway garage and our plan to build a new one. However, I know that many people would have liked that information before a vote was done in December to purchase the land. It's my hope that before we make similar decisions like this, we do share all of that info about why we need a new garage before our vote. The news about rescinding the resolution came to me as a bit of a shock, but I do believe that it is the right decision for us right now. I would like to finish by saying that I'm very passionate about getting a new highway garage. It's long overdue. I knew we needed a new one before becoming a board member, but after personally visiting the highway department on multiple occasions over the past few months, I know that we truly need a new garage as soon as we can. Our highway department does a fantastic job with deteriorating conditions at their facility. Our roads and our crew is the envy of many surrounding towns, both governments and the public alike. I'd be a pretty rich lady if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say they knew they had hit Victor just by the road conditions during the snow. When I got on the board, getting a new highway garage was something that was on my list of things I'd love to help everyone here accomplish. Now it's on the top of that list, and I hope this vote tonight is just a pause on our road to a new building for a highway facility.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion now.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. It is rescinded. Moving to public comments. Opportunity for public comments. Members of the public here to address the board Any comments or concerns they may have?
Thank you. Cheryl Jones Richter, 125 Church Street. Was not aware until tonight of the decision in terms of rescinding the resolution, and I'd like to thank the board for that decision as well as for your comments that you've provided tonight. I do want to note that the primary concern from the public was making significant decisions that affect the public and affect our finances without having the public involved with that. So the need for a town highway garage makes sense, but let's provide that information to the public. Make the public aware of that need. What are the concerns, and more information on what the overall cost of that project is going to be, rather than piecemealing it in bits and pieces. So I know a number of the board members commented to that effect. I would thank you for that and encourage you as you go forward to look at providing information to the public for that planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your past efforts and your comments here this evening.
Bullet points. When you come to a meeting, you prepare what you're going to say. Well, I don't need to say that now. I want to compliment you all for being responsive to a lot of us wanting to know more before you moved ahead. I also will say, and I believe it probably would be true, that if this is the right property, and a case could be made, first, that we do need an upgrade in facilities, which I think we do, but that the public would know that for sure. And whatever the cost is, whatever the properties are you're looking at, the overall cost of the different properties, $1 million or $2 million is not that big of a difference when you look at the overall cost. I don't know what that'll be. So in terms of that, is what I'm trying to say here is that being responsive to this, all the work that Alexis, I don't think I've heard you say more than 2 or 3 sentences in the whole time I've heard you, but that was very impressive. I agree with what you said. I'm looking forward to supporting a new highway facility. I look forward to being involved as a person of interest in the public, in the community, that I have been for the 26 years I've been here. Sometimes controversial, sometimes a little bit abrasive, but in terms of my 3 minutes, I don't know if it's almost up, but I just thought I would say, yeah, let's look at this as an opportunity. All that work that you all did is not wasted work, because it's what you got to come out with anyway. So it's great that you got a good start on what's coming next in terms of what we do in terms of a build out for our highway facilities. Thank you for your time. Oh, one last question. It was a point of information. I was in the student senate for a couple times, and it was always a little different how people did parliamentary procedure. But when you extend the time of a public hearing, does somebody need to make a motion and approve the extension of that time, or is it just automatically stay open without having to make a motion? Because you didn't make a motion and approve it. It seemed like you were about to, but you didn't. So that's up to you guys as to how you go about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your efforts previously and your comments here this evening. Any other members of the public here to address the town board?
No longer.
Okay. Under reports of town officials, in your packet, board members, was a report from the Highway Department. An update from Casey regarding these number of permits sold. Radar signs have been installed, more on order here this evening for consideration, and the Highway Department goes from 5 8-hour days to 4 10 starting on April the 1st. Moving next, IT. Actually, Casey, I apologize, I'm probably putting you on the spot. Is there anything you want to say regarding Mr. Stewart? So, in your packet, board members, Casey will describe how she sat with a student from Victor Central School who did extremely well in a National Civics B conference.
I had the pleasure of attending a Civics B with a student that I interviewed with back in November. He did an essay on composting, the benefits of composting and recycling food scraps, and he is trying to get Victor Central School to participate in this effort. He participated in this Civics Bee, answered a bunch of civics-based questions, and with that essay, his correct answers and his great job at an interview, he won the contest. So now he is going to the state championship in Albany.
Well,
Casey, if he needs help with the district, I would be happy to help him, with Dr. Terranova and with our food service coordinator. And, it's got to be grassroots. Obviously, he's doing it and sounds very passionate reading his essay. He sounds super passionate about it. It's their future. And, you and I have talked about it and all the things that you've done. But if he needs some help with the district, with a little push or some support, give him my contact information, have him reach out to me.
We're going to meet with Brody, and I are going to meet with Carla, and we're going to get the county involved, and then we're hoping to maybe get like a meeting with the superintendent or attend a board meeting and do a presentation, but we're going to try to get someone from the board, either Jack or yourself, and go to the board meeting. So, yeah, they need to get on board with it. It's got to start at that level.
Thanks for your efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you for offering that, Councilman Conan. In addition, I want to thank the members of the Highway Department that came out here this evening as well on your time away from your homes to come here. So very much grateful for that, and I'll see you at 7:15 tomorrow morning. So, IT report, and I should note that we had no internet until about 1 o'clock today. It was a bit of a challenge here at this office as well as a few of the other buildings, so that in itself was challenging. In addition, we have the Parks and Rec update in your packet, and I know it was a lower than normal turnout for the Easter egg hunt on Saturday. So, in addition, I think at this time we'll turn it over to our town clerk. She has a couple liquor licenses to.
Yes, Karen circulated, our town clerk circulated 2 30-day advance notice applications for Wind, Victor, and Wish Thai Cuisine. Does anybody have any objection to issuing those?
No objection.
No.
Okay. And the other thing is the town planning board is seeking lead agency for the purpose of seeker for the Norbut solar farm application. The town board is an involved agency. Do you guys have any problem with the planning board being the lead agency on this project?
Thank you.
Wait, nobody has any objection? Are you okay with the planning board being the lead agency on this?
Yep.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have, just real quick, board members, in your mailbox, you should have received a DOT letter to a town resident regarding his inquiry to the speed and sight distance on Route 251. And we had residents here last week, or 2 weeks ago, from in the neighborhood of 6698 Richardson Road. So an update, the electrical services have been severed. I've asked, based on the fact that we'd heard from residents that people were going in and out, daytime, nighttime, I have asked both the state police and the sheriff's department to swing by this location periodically, and the contractor has has indicated that the week of April the 8th, is my understanding, would be when they would get to the demolition of this house. Again, in your mailbox, April the 8th, eclipse planning for the Emergency Operations Center was left in your mailbox. Certainly a lot of time involved with that, and I know Bob Graham, our fire marshal, has been updated on this information as well, but you can see it's pretty thorough based on number of squad cars, things of that nature, gasoline. Our DPW at the county will be driving around. Our highway superintendent will ensure that the fuel pumps are at the highway facility are topped off, and that's certainly whether or not emergency vehicles would need to be additional gasoline, and our highway superintendent, and my understanding, it be on call, and if need be, our highway members, if need to be, would be called upon as well. And board members, in your mailbox, you should have also received a notice from the New York State Parks and Rec and Historic Preservation about the intention to acquire a piece of land up at Ganondigan. So I don't think anyone is disputing that. It's more FYI to us. So, board members?
Just
any-
a point of clarification, I wanted to just double check for the residents. That demolition of the house, the contract includes all the cleanup, all the trash, the refrigerator, the trampoline that's on the back side of the property, all of that. When they're done, it'll be cleaned up, gone, disappeared, and ready to roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any reports from any planning, ZBA, Conservation Board, Citizens Advisory Committee?
We just have two quick dates, Supervisor, for Parks and Rec CAC. The first being May 18th at 10 a.m. over at the Parks and Rec facility. That's the third annual bike event for kids. It's a joint effort with the PTSA and Kiwanis Club. It's not a big event, a nice small event that they take a ride. There's some safety checks, a couple different things that happen, then they take a ride down the trail, they get ice cream and ride back, and it's certainly a nice event I've participated in the last few years. So any young children, I think it's like ages 5 to 18, Brian, right in that, pretty much all school-age children on the May 18th. And then June 29th, again, is that dog park opening. I know, Alexis, thank you for sending that along to some of our representatives in the area. And then I believe we do have the firm dates of 10 a.m. to noon, at least on the flyer, that's what it's showing. So June 29th, 10 a.m. to noon, over at the Harlan Fisher Dog Park for the grand opening.
Very good. I did attend two fire district meetings this month, one at the Victor Fire District and one at the Fishers Fire District. Victor, they have two career firemen, and certainly I think there's two in the budget line for this year to hire. Fishers, I know you've been short-staffed over there and paying a significant amount of overtime. Two were hired last cycle, and two more were hired last Tuesday evening. Of course, by the time they get through the training and everything like that, it'll be a few months before they're in the mix, and the ability then to hopefully reduce the amount of overtime being paid out. So that's it from the fire district. Anyone else?
Couple updates. Attended the last village board meeting. They adopted their village budget. New tax rate for the village budget will be $4.05. It is an increase, but they are under the 2% tax cap. Also attended the conservation board meeting. It was the 7200 Rosslyn Road acknowledgement of a complete application. Couple weeks ago when we had our last town board meeting, that week I had off, so I took some time to see more town, a little bit more of the town hall facilities better, so did a parks tour with Brian on Tuesday. Brian and I went and visited every single town park, got a little preview of the dog park. It's looking really nice. It's definitely different than any other sort of dog park I've ever seen, where it's not just an open plot of land with a gate. It's like you're going in the woods. There just so happens to be a fence around you. So I think people are going to be really excited about that, and people are already looking forward to the June opening. There's also, when Brian and I did our tour, wanted to give Brian a little kudos on, there's a lot that he's done, I'm not sure if people knew about, on accessibility, making a lot of our town parks more accessible. One of the things that really impressed me was, Brian, that you did some concrete pads. People probably don't notice it over at Victor Municipal Park, so that when we have the bands there on Thursday, people who might be mobility impaired can actually get up close and get on a concrete pad even though it's in the grass, instead of having to be all the way over on the side. One thing Brian and I had talked about that I had brought up, and I think I've actually talked to Councilman Cusimano about, is I noticed there weren't any baby changing facilities in any of the town park bathrooms. I know there's not any here either at Town Hall. Also talked about maybe adult changing stations as well for those people who might have family members, children, et cetera, who have disabilities and who are adults, and wanted to kind of pick everybody's brain about what they thought about maybe looking into either getting baby changing facilities or either, you know, adult changing facilities, looking into the prices, et cetera, for some of the either town parks or town hall.
Well, I think certainly it's something we should look into. I think my understanding, I think there's actually a changing station here, just hasn't been installed here for young little
Okay.
children. But something, I meet with Brian every other week,
Okay.
and I think we meet again next week, and I'll have to follow up with him.
Perfect.
Very good. Good report.
I got a couple of things, sorry.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
It was a busy week. Also took the time to attend a session of court over at Town Court where Judge Holter was presiding over. Have not unfortunately gotten the chance to go see Town Court when Judge Coker is there yet, so it's on my list. If that was my first time ever going to a court facility, town or otherwise, which I'm very glad, other than, you know, watching on TV. And it was very interesting. If our board members have not done it, or I guess the general public either, it's very fascinating to see kind of what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis over there between the judges, defendants, we've got sheriff's department there, the administrative staff. They do, it's very interesting and they do a wonderful job. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was, and I discussed this with Councilman Guinan, was when we've all been chatting about the solar code, is possibly putting together a either working group or a task force to look at the solar code, maybe advise on some changes to the town board, just generally maybe compare us to some other towns, et cetera, and wanted to see how the rest of the board felt about it.
I'm not objecting at all. I think we should have every two board members. I know we have staff internally, work with our town engineer as well, and certainly our educated counsel sitting next to me. Make a note.
I think Alexis and I know you and I had spoken about this, you know, I met with Keith to try to understand, this is certainly, I'm not an expert on this code, and I know that you've dealt with it a little bit more than I have. For me, it's trying to understand truly what the changes, you know, because I just don't have the breadth of knowledge of it, is understanding what changes are truly needed. And from what I'm gathering and talking to Keith and the team over there, you know, the obvious focus point is maybe just a fee structure change and clarifying some of the verbiage there.
Yeah.
But as far as the code goes, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I just don't have the understanding to know if that code is adequate or not. So for me, it's just understanding what best practices are and making sure that we align with it as a town. You know, but in talking with Keith and his team there, it sounds like we have a pretty good code established, but I'm not an expert in it. So if we can identify areas of improvement, I certainly think that we should consider that.
Well, I think also, go back to the public record, that gentleman, and no disrespect to our council, but you got a very anxious resident who's got some knowledge with overlay and land use. That'd be a good guy to tap into for some pro bono on a task force as far as bringing some stuff to the table in terms of just offering a perspective. And I think, you know, Mike and I, Councilman Guinan and I have talked about, I think our code is good, but this gentleman brought up some really good points in terms of where do we want the solar.
So do we have two volunteers from this board that would be part of that, like to be part of that committee?
I did tell Alexa that I'd be happy to be on that committee. And I don't want in any way through this whole conversation that, and talking with Keith, our current code is very good as to what we did, but the fees, documentation, everything is good. The point that Mr. Brener brought up, the fact that there's no final assessment from this board based on it, and it can blow right through without any real consequence of wear and around us and all the other towns. the biggest thing that, in my opinion, strictly my opinion, is our code acknowledges everything but the wares, and the wares in the town are the biggest thing that we need to enhance, lay out, and bring our code in, like, more in zoning than any place else. The towns around us have a more comprehensive plan as to where in town this would work. My company deals with solar projects across New York State, and solar is here. We're not going to get away from it. The explosion has been enormous. I mean, these are smaller projects, obviously, but I think it ballooned so much in the last 3 years that we just need to tweak. We need to be better prepared on it, and it slapped us in the face before we were ready for it. My whole point was to redefine certain areas of it that are good, but I'm not trying to take any away from our existing code, because a lot of work went into it, and they put a lot into it, a lot of thought into it, and when it was adopted, that was the way it was. And I think that we probably just weren't aware of how fast it would hit us. And that was my big thing for slowing down and voting for this, was to, holy crap, we need to really take a look, especially when one entity might come in and say, well, I've already targeted 3 spots in your town that I want to do, and I just don't think we were ready for it on that standpoint. So I know it's here. I'm not saying that we're not going to have it. I'm big on wanting to know where.
Thank you, Mike. And I'm assuming you were volunteering?
I'm sure I'd be happy to volunteer. I would also want to see, would you like us to kind of maybe bring, like, kind of pinpoint a group and then bring it for a resolution, or just maybe for discussion at the next meeting? And
Whatever the timeline,
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
I want to cut you off.
Nope.
And I think it's great. I have had the pleasure a few times to be sitting in a court, okay? I had the good pleasure of leaving my wallet in the car, so I wasn't on the receiving end of a potential fine. But, so you were before with Judge Holter, which is fine. Now, when you sit with Judge Coker,
A little different.
first of all, we have no line item for bailing out town board members, so don't get
I won't say
charged with
anything.
contempt of court or anything, okay?
That almost happened when I went to Judge Holter's. Not for me, but for a defendant that was there. They were almost charged with contempt of court.
I've told that story before.
It was like the movies.
Okay, thank you all, everyone, for your comments. Moving to the resolutions here this evening, we're starting with resolution number 1, authorization to sell miscellaneous highway department equipment at auction.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, moving to number 2, authorization for the highway superintendent to purchase a portable hot pressure washer for use at the highway facility.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, Kim, are you getting these? And I should, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving to number 3, authorization for the highway superintendent to purchase solar radar speed signs.
So moved, and I would like to add that, I know since we've added these a few years ago, I don't know if it's just me, but I definitely, it puts me in check as well. Coming down High Street, I travel that road every day to get to work, and seeing that there, it gives, even if I'm doing the right speed, I give the speedometer a glance. So I think that there is some effectiveness there. I know that there's a discussion of it wears off a little over time if it's been in one spot for a long time, but I think it's a very worthwhile investment considering the town that we live in and how many vehicles we got buzzing around.
I tapped the brakes today.
As a former resident of High
That's a-
Street, thank you.
Well, and that's what it's supposed to do. So I want to thank the highway superintendent, Casey, and you gentlemen. I know you're the ones that are moving them around from location to location, so thank you. That said, we have a first and a second.
Just Drew is the first.
Second.
I beat her. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 4, probationary appointment of Amanda Curry to a account clerk position for the Victor Town Courts. She's
So moved.
okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving to number 5, permanent appointments of Adam Rysek and Richard McGrain to code enforcement officer positions.
So moved, with thanks.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 6, appointment of Frank Mueller to full-time code enforcement officer position.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and Frank is here with us this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Frank, congratulations and welcome aboard. Okay, moving to resolution number 7, authorization for the purchase of a heavy-duty snowplow for the pickup truck for Parks and Rec operations.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 8. It's agreement with Forster for Victor Community Chorus.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Number 9, agreement with Aaron Hemby, Spring Drive. This is the band Spring Drive, and they will be at one of our concerts this summer.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, agreement with CNA Pavement Marking for crosswalk striping in Auburn and Lehigh Trail, shared use path and sidewalk road crossing. Certainly something we need.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 10 is passed. Number 11, authorization to purchase signage for the dog park at Harlan Fisher Park.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, McAllister Signs is awarded. Number 12, request for certificate of liability insurance. This is the waiver, and again, those 2 contracts that we had earlier under Parks and Rec for summer concert and the Victor Chorus.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Number 13, for the purchase of trees, shrubs, and plants for the dog park at Harlan Fisher Park.
Brian, are the trees for the male dogs?
I hope not. Some of them are really expensive.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 13 is passed. Award bid for Pump Station 28, revised sanitary sewer connection, and to the bidder would be Villager Construction.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 14 to Villager. 15, letter of credit, Willis Hill Estates Phase 3 and release number 1. Town engineer recommends that $805,896.43 be released from said letter of credit, and there's a balance of $884,569.17.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 15. Moving to 16, accept letter of credit for 1086 Strong Road subdivision. This would be the amount, recommended surety of $304,980.70. And in addition, in the third whereas is the construction and administration inspection fees of $12,199.23.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, offered, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 16 is approved. Number 17, acceptance of the 2023 Victor Town Court Audit. Report from Mengel Metzger Bar and Company.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I do want to thank the entire court staff, and special thank you to Terry Bolton seeing this audit through before her retirement. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 17 is passed. Moving to public comments. Again, an opportunity for members of the public to address the town board.
Hey, just real quick, it's Keith Kogler. I'm on Beaumont Way with a bunch of folks that were here earlier today. 2 process questions. I think I heard you guys mention the vote on the moratorium would be in April. Did I hear that correctly?
I think,
At the earliest, April 20th.
yes, the April 22nd meeting.
April 22nd meeting would be the earliest, you're saying?
Yes,
Thank you. And then
it would be the earliest, yes.
thank you. And then I heard also that you voted yay to give the planning board the, what is it called, agent?
Lead agency.
Lead agency, that's, yeah, that's, and again, I'm no expert. Steve, is that a usual process?
Under the seeker regulations, agency has to declare itself lead agency.
So that gives that board the ultimate decision-making power to approve or disapprove of these?
They grant the site plan approvals and things of that nature, but yes,
So they're really determining develop to a point where they're comfortable in making a determination.
Okay, thank you very much.
any other members of the public here to address the town board? Okay, board members, I do need a motion to go in executive session.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, and this would be for pending litigation and employment history of a particular person. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I just need the town board. Rick, you're good to go.
That's all.